This is us. This is Batumi. I happen to know that the course into Batumi for their ILS is 120. Even though it's runway 130 or 13, and that course should be 130, it's actually 120. That's not uncommon. In the real world, we would be having an approach plate which would tell us to intersect a point somewhere over here and would give us an actual geographical point that we would intercept the glide slope and localizer and then turn into Batumi. However, our plan is we're going to travel approximately 180 degrees south. We're going to come down this way. When we intercept the glide slope or intercept 120, we're going to turn left. So when we check the HSI, right here, we can see 120, and we can see that the arrow is pointing to the right of 120. I'm going to turn to 180 or something in that general direction and wait until this arrow is just about on that 120, and then I'm going to turn left to 120. So we're going to travel, disregard this needle, we're going to travel south. And then once this needle gets almost to 120, we're going to turn. Now that'll put us in a general direction for Batumi, but we're not sure if we're going to be right, left, or if we're at that point we won't have the glide slope. Generally within 12 miles we'll hit that. But it won't tell us if we're right or left, and that's when we're going to need the ILS for directions. So I'm going to unpause. And I'm going to keep it around 250 knots or so. I'm going to go to autopilot, hold the altitude. The ILS for Batumi is 110.3. So that's good. Now, take autopilot off, and we're going to turn south. My speed back a little bit, and I want to get to about 2,000 feet. And somewhere in here 175 will work. And let's level off at 2,000 feet if we can. Speed back a little bit. Speed monitoring is very important, of course, at all times, but it's essential because it's so easy when you're flying an instrument approach to get distracted. I'm going to go autopilot on right now, and now let's take a look. This is our course, 175, 176, and this is 120 right here. We're going to wait. We can barely see that arrow is slowly moving. When it gets in between 120, 125 or thereabout, I'm going to turn left to that heading. Speed. Landing gear warning. Almost to 125. Okay, we're just about to 120, so we're going to bank left to 120. Maintain 2,000 feet. Or at least I'm going to try. Now, I'm on 120. Now what I'm going to do is set up my approach raise my seat a few notches. And I can see the arrow or the localizer is showing me that I need to correct left. So I'm going to bring back my speed. I'm 11 miles. So I want to, once I get through that 10-mile mark, I'm going to correct over about 5 or 10 degrees. You don't want to go too much. And let's see if we see that needle, that line start to move back. Let's pause here for a second. Let's take a look. All right, now we have ourselves where we need to be. And we're basically just under 10 miles and 122 degrees in. So we're in a very good position right now. Let's continue. Gear down. And that my localizer line is starting to move to the right a little bit. Now I'm going to watch my speed. I want to still stay. Now, is that correct? I'm going to come back to 120, and I probably did that a little late as I'm thinking of too many things. But I'm going to come back to 120, which is, and now I can start to see the artificial runway. Let me level off here. Let me go up another notch. As you can see, the localizer line is slightly to the right, which makes sense here. I have to correct to the right. And now that box is my glide slope. I want to keep my vertical velocity indicator, the circle with the lines, in that box. Now as the line starts to come to the left, the bottom of the line, I'm going to start to correct. Now I'm a little low on the glide slope, so I'm going to increase my speed a little bit. But I know at 1,400 feet I'm still safe here because Batumi's pretty much at sea level. So I'm just going to leave myself basically at this altitude and let the glide slope box come down. Meet the vertical velocity indicator, which it is doing. So now I'll raise my seat just a little bit more. Watch my speed. Now I'm going to stop here for a second and pause. One of the things I'm going to watch, I want this vertical velocity indicator to be on this threshold at some point, and I want these two thrust lines, I don't know what they're technically called, they're eventually going to be between these two brackets, and I want to maintain that. That'll give me an AOA of 14 degrees. Easier said than done. Still a little below the glide slope, but I'm not concerned about it. All right, my AOA is good, so now I'm really going to watch that. When those carrots start to go downward, I'm going to increase speed. I'm going to put the vertical velocity indicator right on that runway threshold. And I like to keep the carrots to the top of that bracket to give myself just a little extra speed. Better to come in a little bit long than too short, particularly when you have no visibility. And as you can see here, there's not a lot. Keep those arrows right in that bracket as long as I can. I can see the runway now. I've got visibility, so my air brake is on. I'm going to let it roll out to 100 knots. Let's turn this off. I went to bingo fuel on that approach. And now once I'm down, I'm just going to, this is tricky, just pump my brakes to avoid a skid. Nose wheel steering on. and life is good. And that may not be the official way, but it works.